Alliance of Kenya and Catalyst on Hope Media. I'm Edmund Odibo. At EAK, we say, from now on, transforming Kenya county by county stronger together. We're all about good governance. Today's show is one whose topic is very apt because you can apply it at the individual level, community level, national level, indeed even the global level. It's all about change. Be and champion the change we need. Not what we want, what we need. And to help us delve into this subject matter, I'm very pleased to invite Gerald.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana, Edmund. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm delighted to be at Hope. It's a home that I have visited a couple of times, but this is a joy to return home and walk this talk of leadership and what it entails and what it means to the common person, as well as the people we refer to as leaders.
But before I say, because I just said Gerald, Kidogo, forgive me, I'm casual.
Yes.
For the others who don't know you like I do,
Yes.
Who is Gerald?
Thank you. Gerald, first of all, is a husband to one Phyllis Njoki, a lovely lady who has been gifted by God, and through her we have three wonderful children, Jerry, Nikita, and also Gitonga. And also, Gerald is a leader, has led quite a number of institutions, especially in the civil society space. Been a CEO of some 3 NGOs, but at the same time, I've also been a leader in the area of sports. But my passion is in leadership and governance, which has been there since probably childhood, because it started in school, fairness and justice, issues of bullying, not bullying, issues of making sure that people are treated well and treated in justice. And therefore, Gerald also happens to be the convener of good governance in KCPF, which is the Kenya Christians Professional Forum, which we are delighted that Hope and even CITAM and EAK, KCCB and NCCK are part of. So my delight is in leadership. My passion is finding good leaders in every sector, but more so Christ-centered leadership, which drives us to servant leadership. So there are quite a number of things that Gerald has also done. He sat in a couple of boards in the health sector. He has also sat on boards within the area of sports. And he has also sat on boards in the area of civil society and good governance. So that's Gerald in a nutshell.
Wait, that CV is compressed but very powerful.
Thank you.
Many of us will say when we grow up, we want to be like Gerald.
Emulating you, my good brother. Emulating you. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the topic today,
Yeah.
be and champion the change we need.
Yeah.
Be, I think we all know.
Yes.
But then that word champion.
Yeah.
So who is a champion?
A champion is any person, and I say any person, an ordinary person doing extraordinary things that help to change something and is highlighted as the beacon of that thing. So we could have a champion who is advocating for something, somebody who believes in something that has an impact on human beings and helps them transform or transcend into something better. So that person has a calling, and therefore he or she becomes the champion of that particular thing, all event, all circumstance that he wants to change. So for all of us, we have the opportunity to be champions. Sometimes people mistakenly think that it is certain individuals who are champions. Yes, by virtue of them deciding to answer to a call, and therefore they become identified with the thing that they want to see propagated. And therefore, for me, I have stepped in as a champion of good leadership and governance. What does that entail? It entails that you look out for good leaders in every space, whether it's in a football match. Who is the champion? Sometimes people tend to think it's the captain, but you could easily see somebody else who is a champion by the drive that they have, by the passion that they have. It could be in the environmental space. You could find somebody who wants to maintain the environment and wants to contribute. Wangari Maathai was a champion, and she started small, but ended up being a global icon. So we are all having the possibility of being champions in our little settings. And it starts from where you are, growing upwards, and then the impact you have. So that's a champion for me.
So a champion is not necessarily winner the way it includes and goes beyond.
It includes and goes beyond. And that's the problem that we have. A lot of us are programmed to think that a champion is the winner takes it all. But you could have a champion who understands their role and the impact. In fact, I dare say, and I can be challenged, but I dare say you cannot be a champion and not be a mentor and somebody who builds others for you to get to that stage of being called a champion. That is what I would say.
So when we are told wananchi wa kawaida, you know, sometimes I don't like kawaida because then I imagine who are the others? Kama si wa kawaida. How see who are they? Who if they're not kawaida? Kawaida is like you normal people.
Yes.
So it means then the leaders, quote unquote, the ones who say are abnormal. If these are normal kawaida people.
In fact, for me, my good friend Edmund, I get very concerned the moment I hear somebody segregate between sisi viongozi na wananchi wale
Nyinyi.
na nyinyi. The moment you use that language, it tells me that you have in yourself lifted yourself to a certain status and consider yourself segregated from the others.
Others are lesser.
And others are lesser. So the question that begs is then who are you leading? Because a leader needs followers. And if the followers already identify kama nyinyi, mko kule, so they have also been programmed to answer to your songs only when needed. But the kind of society you want in this country is where a leader understands that I am actually privileged to be able to lead these individuals. I remember a quote Kibaki said that a leadership is a privilege to serve others. Yeah? Not for you to go and lord over others. If you're a Christian, that should never be a place of contention. You ought to be a servant leader, just like Christ himself did. You'll find a lot of the time somebody was joking. How many books did Jesus write? I say, I can't remember. But how many followers does he have today? Because he did. And he didn't consider himself more important than anybody else. All he did was to say, I have good news for you. And if you pursue this path, I know you will meet my Father. And I will be an advocate for you on behalf to my Father. So this idea of when I'm a leader, and it is sad, Edmund, when you see some of, not only the political leadership, even in the church space, in the civil society, in the private sector, there are people who, the moment they sit on that seat, then wanasema utajua mimi ni nani.
Then you will know.
Na you will know. Kuna nyinyi na kuna mimi. Yes. Yeah.
Now then,
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
What is change?
You know, I love our biology class with change. And there was this lesson we used to have, you can help me, of the butterfly.
Oh, yes.
You remember. and you know, it starts from that level. It goes through transformation of 4 levels. Yeah, so you start from the egg, you come to the larva, the pupa, and then finally the butterfly.
Right.
Something very interesting about scientists, they tell you that if you manipulate any part of that process, the change that you are looking for will not take place. The strength of the butterfly may not be found. So you cannot help it come out of its cocoon.
By making it easier.
By making it
Also
easier
you think.
for it. So for change is anything that helps you move from one form to the next, or transition you from one place to the other. And hopefully, we are looking at you moving from one place to a better place. So for us, and for myself, change is anything that helps you become better. You are who you are at this juncture, and then you're transformed into a better being. Change for me is when a child is born, they are crawling, and over a period of time, through practice and through their effort, and also through support from other and the environment, they get to a better place. Change is where we were born. Today we are seated here having an interview. If you get a toddler to sit here, they may not give us the kind of information that we require at this juncture. But over a period of time, over change, they are being pumped in with information, training, formation, and suddenly they become the Gen Zs who are helping us right now. And suddenly, and that's the difficulty that some of our age mates are having. They cannot connect with these young people telling us what to do at this juncture. But they forget that they are going through transformation. And their transformation is one that is very endowed with technology, with things changing around them faster than our time. And therefore, for them, there's change in information, there's change in transformation, and there's change even in their mental ability to process many things as compared to ourselves. So for me, change is anything that moves you from one level to the next, and I qualify it for the better and for the impact of society.
So then how does one identify the change they need, or a community, the change we need? Because change can happen any which way, but how do you identify the change that we need?
It's important to ask ourselves, when we are looking for change, is it necessary change? Must there be change? And if you answer yes, then you say, where do I find the agents of change? Because in any change, there has to be an agent of change. And therefore, it saddens me when we are going through change, and because of the reluctance, or some of us getting stuck on who should institute that change, what age should institute that change, what gender should institute that change. When we get stuck there is when we find that change does not come forth as quickly as we anticipate. But this is what I would say. Everybody has the ability to input and to bring about change. I have watched young boys, young children, young girls spread the gospel of Christ in a way that a 90-year-old, a 50-year-old, a 30-year-old may not. And these young people help bring about change to the listener. I have watched also individuals who are going out and asking questions, and they sometimes become very irritating. But because of these questions they ask, how does this thing operate? How does this function? Why is this light here? What is the cause of this? Because of that, they are able to connect information and cause change. But I must also say this, that if you're a believer, all change comes from God. Somebody told me at one point that God speaks to us every moment, every second, including now when I'm speaking to you. But the only reason why we will not hear Him and instructions of things we have asked and changes that we want to see done is because we are too busy hearing the noise of other things. As I'm in the studio, I can hear certain machines running at the background. It interferes with my hearing. As I'm in the studio, I can probably hear some other element, whether it's a fan that is helping cool the place. And because of that, it interferes with my ability to hear from the Lord Himself. So every time there is what we call the change that we have requested from our Lord Himself, it's there. And He sends you the message of how to institute the change, but we will not hear it because we are too distracted. But guess what? Somebody else has gone for a quiet retreat and has taken time just to listen to the Lord Himself and will be guided as to the change that needs to take place. So again, back to even nature, which is the creation of God, He gives us a system of understanding how to institute change. So change does come by listening to the environment, by seeking God to ask Him of a certain direction you need to take. And that's how I see change. But in each of the change process, there are certain steps, and you cannot interrupt them. You cannot jump from being a toddler straight to an adult who will be the leader of a nation or a church.
So then speak to the whole process of self-assessment or community assessment.
Yeah.
How does one go about it? How does a community go through self-assessment?
Again, I love the good book. You remember when our good Lord turned and said to his disciples, and he's asking, who do people say I am?
Mm-hmm.
And they're wondering now, surely. Is that a question to ask us?
And there was no chat GPT those days.
There was no chat GPT. Who do people? And of course, the ones who have been around him say, we are suspecting you could be Elijah. Some say you're Elijah.
Then he asked, and who do you say I am?
Who?
You.
You have been close to me.
Who do you say
Who
I
do
am?
You say I am?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them said, the Messiah.
The Messiah.
And he says, only God himself could have revealed that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, for us, we must constantly ask ourselves, who are we? And this question is not only asked of us. You recall even Moses himself when he is being sent. And he says, Lord, we have done these things with you. There's a part I have figured now. Me, I'm a bit tired.
Mm-hmm.
When I go out there, I know these guys. I know them. Me, I know who they are. They will ask me, who are you to tell us? And the Lord says, just tell them, I am who I am. My brother, Edmund, you know yourself better than anybody else. The closest person who gets to know anyone than ourselves is our mothers. Then it goes maybe to our fathers. And you know, fathers get the raw end sometimes because they're told, saa zingine ukua, saa zingine ulisafiri. Yeah, it's our mothers. But the closest person who knows who, it's you. You know yourself. Now, to know yourself, you must assess yourself. And you must ask yourself, who am I? What family have I come from? What is the ethos of that family? What is the faith of that family? What is the training of that family? What is the formation of that family? All these brings together the person that you are, including your personality, the character, the calling, the desires that you have. And so it's important every time that you go through life, if possible, even in a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis for two busy people, a yearly basis, take a retreat to say, who am I? Who was I a few years ago? What have I become? And it's very easy for us, even as Christians, to be good people, but to slowly have that gnawed away from you by the circumstances of the environment. Mm-hmm. And that is why, for me, the anchor for myself as a person right now is Psalms 1. Because it gives you two options. You either spend time with people who are like-minded, who love God, or you have the other option to spend time with people who say, we don't know about anything called God. We don't even care about whether he exists. And they have a certain path. Both of them will yield results. The question is, which results do you want? Mm-hmm. For me and my house, we have chosen, let's pursue the one the Creator has shown us. Mm-hmm. And you will fall along that journey. Many times you will fall. But the falling only encourages you, just like the butterfly, that you become stronger when you are inside that cocoon. And the more you fall, it helps you to be strengthened. And as you become stronger in faith, you begin to be very comfortable with who you are. The challenges of not knowing who you are is you become an object blown in any direction by the wind. The problem of not knowing who you are is that you become insecure even when you have such amazing positions in life. You are still insecure. How do we know you're insecure? It's by how you behave, it's by the actions you take, and it's how you treat your fellow man. So for me, you must know yourself. And above all, then you must know God. You know, it's become fashionable saying, I know God, I love God. I'm born again.
It's like God is your buddy.
Yeah, God is my buddy. But one of the biggest testers, and it happens even to myself, and I am by no means saying I'm anywhere near what I know God has planned for us to be, is I will find myself coming from adoration, from prayer. And immediately I'm driving, I will see a matatu car. And I'll be out there opening the window, chasing the fellow to tell him one or two things.
Maybe even three.
All three. Mambo ni matatu.
Mambo ni matatu.
But as I'm driving, And as I'm hot with a bit of anger, I start saying, so that's the Christian that I am representing. And suddenly things calm down. In other occasions, I have even found out that it's an occasion to fellowship. I've come out to go and lecture a matatu driver, only to end up having a very nice conversation. Ulianza safari saa ngapi? Oi mazee, saa tisa.
That was the opportunity to ice break.
Now it's ice break. He tells you about his day and you realize this man is doing the best he can. Na nakwambia boss angetaka trips kadhaa. And it's where my salary will come from. So I must make them many. That's why we cut you guys like that. And then you realize he is human. Yeah? He is human. So it gives you an opportunity to fellowship along the way. And then it also challenges your leadership along the way. Because leadership is daily lifestyle. So it's not just a matter of when I'm in this office, when I'm in a studio, or when I'm given a certain position. Leadership is daily and it includes yourself. And that's why it's important to know yourself, because then it offers you an opportunity to say, what kind of leadership am I offering?
I like that, because then it starts speaking to you being able to identify the priorities for your personal growth and development.
Very true. Very true. And in you remind me of something. And I keep sharing this with my family. I tell them, it's 1994, I think. I'm not sure of the date. But you remember our good president, Bill Clinton? He's famous for many things, but there's one particular one that sticks out. And when Bill Clinton was caught in an infidelity position, and
he was looking for full scalps under the table.
Yes, he was looking for full scalps under the table, which he couldn't find. But suddenly somebody appeared. Suddenly somebody appeared.
In the Oval Office.
Yes, in his own office. Awful office, because it's actually, And so when he went through that crisis, a lot of people went to advise him. A lot of people. Many. And the US has all these talents. They can draw from any source of information. We have all this data, sir. This is what you need to say. And every time he was trying to do that, it got worse. There's a gentleman called Anthony Robbins. He's in the personal development space. Our equivalent of Anthony Robbins in Kenya, we have the James Gitaus, we have Dr. Wale Akemi, we have quite a number of local people also who are doing an excellent job. Now, Anthony Robbins told him, in personal development, which I encourage for everybody, everyone should have an understanding of personal development, because it talks about the self. Yeah, it helps you to become self-aware. It helps you to understand you, and then by understanding you, you'll understand other people. Reached a point and said, you know what, sir? My simple advice to you is come to those cameras, face them and say, I did it.
Own up.
And I made a mistake.
That's it. You're human.
People are spending resources. Let's fly to here, to get here, to do this. All you need to do is own up. That's the power of personal development. My brother, the country right now is going through a very tough time. If the leadership would have invested, and I say would because I doubt, would have been invested in the area of personal development, there are things that we would not be addressing at this juncture. Personal development helps me understand that when a young person talks to me, with the language they have of today, it's not that he's necessarily being disrespectful to me. It's actually understanding the stage in which they are in, the time they are in, and it helps me to be able to listen without talking down to them. So that by the time we are done, the person also goes through a self-reflection and says, enyewe hata huyo mbuyu sikumwongelesha vipoa. Na huyo mbuyu mazeni kama amenyita. We are korada. So suddenly, they start even talking to you by now asking questions. Because they recognize.
Inquisitiveness.
Ameona mbali. Na tumemzungusha lakini tumeona amekubali kusunguka, lakini sasa ametuleta pia tusunguke na yeye,
tuko pamoja.
Yeah. So personal development is very powerful. It's a very powerful area. It is based also on the area of psychology, the study of the mind, the person, the personality, and understanding human beings. Yeah. Then connect personal development with now psychology and spirituality. You become totally gifted.
You know, it reminds me.
Yes.
I can't quite remember, and even if I did, I wouldn't.
Yes.
Here in Kenya,
Yeah.
where some politician, you know, it became highlighted in media that he was equally involved in something that is, you know, should I say that is not legal?
Yes.
Compromising situation, be it corruption or otherwise. So when he was asked, Mheshimiwa, like now let me call Mheshimiwa Gerald. We've caught you in this circumstance. What do you have to say? Unlike what you're suggesting here, which you're advocating, which is the right thing, is just take ownership. What this fellow said is that he didn't say nimefanya makosa. He said makosa imetendeka. You know, the wrong things happened.
But it was not me.
Not me. I'm around, like those wrong things happened.
Taking responsibility. By the way, in personal development, you're taught that you must be self-aware, and your self-awareness is taking responsibility. That's the first thing. The moment you accept, then you are able to now explain why you fell. And if we teach our young ones how to accept responsibility, which is what they are now doing. When I'm hearing the Gen Z with the issues in Kenya, they are saying, you have been teaching us responsibility on paper. We are saying we want to see responsibility
practically.
And I can tell you this, Brother Edmund, you cannot lie to your children. They have grown up with you.
They know you.
They see you. They know you. They know the things that outside your home. They say, dad, yo wazee wakijua huko nje. Unajua hawezi kukuangalia vile wanakuangalia.
We know you.
We know you. Yeah? And the beauty is those who accept and are aware of who they are can never be threatened by tutasema vile uko ndani hapa kule nje.
Now then let's speak to the whole aspect of accountability.
Yes.
Because it seems we're in very short supply and become very selective.
Indeed. I like going into our country because that's the current thing that is happening right now. We are told in the years yonder, so to speak, one paper, sessional paper number 10.
The very famous one.
The very famous one.
Or infamous, it depends.
It depends on where you stand. Of the Ndegwa Commission gave liberty for public servants to also become entrepreneurs.
At the same time where they are.
At the same time as they are practicing.
That's where the rain started beating us.
Now, you give me also, as a priest or a pastor, the liberty to also state and determine how the money
will be allocated.
Where the tithe, where the offertory, where the alms go.
And my needs also.
And my own needs.
In that space.
In the same space. What is the outcome?
Makosa itatendeka.
We have actually set up people to actually do the very thing that we know they shouldn't be doing. And so when you set up a system where you are both the judge, the jury,
the executioner,
and you also execute, it can only go one way. So we made classical historical mistakes from that stage. But then again, you still ask yourself, it's over 30, 40 years. And we, the ones making those mistakes, are still entering into our faith places. There are those, of course, who don't prophesy faith. They could be in societies that also demand of them to be of a certain caliber. And then there are those who also could be in institutions where there are rules that govern management and governance of those institutions. I have found that we have taken time to help ourselves excuse ourselves from the accountability. There is no institution anywhere now I've come across that doesn't have a charter of how this place should be done. And even the mama and papa churches that have come up, as far as a year ago, considered and said, we do need a code of conduct that would help us. It is true I may have good intentions as a man of God or, a woman of God with good intentions. But we know even Adam had good intentions, but fall is imminent. So to avoid that, you set up systems. So we moved away from that, and we said you can do business. And what happens? I'm in a meeting, a board meeting, and I will be the first, have the first rights of information. I know a road will be passing through a certain part.
You even know the budget.
I even know the budget. Not only do I make sure I have purchased something along that road, not only do I make sure that I have formed a company, not only do I make sure that that company has my daughter, my son, my brothers and sisters, na kama ulikuwa ndugu mbaya wewe tunakuweka nje. Yeah? So that is where the rain started beating us. I also implore Kenyans that you cannot teach our children to become good. By the way, have you found out even a robber wants their sons and daughters to be the best? Even a robber.
Oh, yeah.
But as he is saying that, I demand of this in this house, the son and daughter are asking, but what are you going to do? So they do not listen to what we say, they watch and they will perfect it. So for us, we have made a couple of errors. Now, one of the saddest part for me, even with the current government, and it has owned up, when we were selecting people to serve us in government, we clearly knew some of these people are thieves. It is in public record. Now, if you come and tell me that, Gerald, when you go in that corner, there's a big pit that was dug by myself, and then you show me and I ignore, what does that say?
You just go and...
It means you condone it.
Of course.
And it means you know and you're aware. So here we are. We have a new government in place. There are a few things that I have refused to accept. I have sat even with my brethren, some, who say, but remember, even the other government did this. My brother, that but is a very troubling thing. It is the but that has gotten us from the Ndegwa Commission accepting. But Wakina Ndegwa did it, but Wakina Jojo did it, but Wakina Kibaki may have done it, but Wakina, but.
So we can only go south from bad to worse.
We can only go southward, declining. It reminds me of the special agents who were asked, why did you not put security on the rooftop there of where that young man, Cook, was shooting at President
They said they went to secure in the inside.
They say it was slippery.
It was slippery and slanting, surely.
So these are the mistakes we have done. And this is why we're in this quagmire. And we must have a reset. Now, change is very difficult. Because in the theory of change, you must come to a point where you must freeze so that you understand that this is the thing that needs to be changed. Then you must come to a place of understanding what needs to be changed. And then you must come to the point of unfreeze. So that then you have the fluidity of changing into what you need to change into. So we must reach a point where we say we must reset. All those wonderful words, we must restore and we must rebuild this country. Now, for us in Kenya, all we want, all we are asking for is safety, is peace, is justice, and finally is prosperity. That's where the Gen Z are spotlighting us especially. There cannot be any development in a country if there is no prosperity. There cannot be prosperity if you don't have accountability, transparency, and justice for all. Remember when I said about leadership since childhood. There's something I like talking about, and it happens in schools and it happens even now. This thing called bullying. Some think it is a historical, cultural thing that is good. It toughens boys. But I tell them, when it goes beyond toughening, it's injustice. It becomes a trauma for the persons that are growing up. And what happens is they will transfer it into their places of work.
It becomes lifelong, actually. It's a seed planted.
And it is a seed planted. You may not see it, but even when I watch politicians on TV, I can say that one went through hell and they are going to give it to others.
They transmit it to others.
It's transmitted. So you have to be very careful with what it is that you're propagating. So justice must be seen from childhood all the way to wherever we occupy. The businesses we occupy, the places of work we occupy, any place of occupation. The other thing that I would want to speak to, and it's connected and related, is also the issue of fatherhood. There are people who have had trauma from their fathers, and it was never addressed. And that trauma never leaves, even when they go to work. And that is why you can find somebody who is very successful, and then they are very irresponsible. Very successful. They have found the formula of making money, but they have never found the formula of being humble and being able to understand that whatever you have, you are a steward of God's providence. And so they will use what they have to prove to you that they are more men than all the men. And in so doing, they injure you, and they injure society, and they injure others. It's important, back again to personal development, for people to understand, what environment have I come from? Was I neglected? Was I tortured? Was I abused? Was I called names? By the very person who you trusted. Some did not even have that person in their lives to tell them, to speak into their life. So they were left to find out the world by themselves. And we like saying, wewe ni mwanaume, kaa ngumu kama ngumu. Yes. So we must rectify and we must fix those things. And we must be able, you know, in the developed world, which is also now beginning to be undeveloped, because they are slowly coming back to this circuit that we are in. Before you can become a leader, you go through a battalion of tests. Can we rely on you? Especially after Hitler and what he did. You may seem very nice, all good, but you could be terror that is waiting to explode. So we must do a couple of tests to ascertain you are okay. And that indeed, when you take leadership, whether it's in any sector, you are okay to do that. We must come to that point. And it is very easy. In our traditional setting, you used to be asked, what is your name? Gerald. Yes, Gerald. Oh, nimesikia. Ile ingine? Mwangi. Mwangi wa nani?
Oh, they're beginning to see what are your roots.
Now. and we would get very frustrated, especially even with my generation. Why are you asking me these big questions? Many questions. But what they are doing is to find out, where is your background and what roots do you come from? Sadly, it would even be used in marriage. They don't tell you. But hey, umetoka kwa kina Hitler. Hapo tuta. Now, for us as society, and especially as Christians, we know that there are people who will come from underprivileged homes, very difficult circumstances. It is for us to take these people, champion them into the kind of individuals we want serving society. It's possible. Yeah.
And now then it comes to something which I know you're involved in, very briefly.
Yes.
Utumishi Bora Awards, because that whole subject of taking ownership, championing, transformative.
Yeah.
And how long has it been there? Who are some of these winners that you know?
Excellent.
Because then you inspire and change, and others are motivated.
Yes. I'm just looking at something so that I just share with you.
Yes.
Kenya Christians Professional Forum is ecumenical. It's ecumenical. I encourage anybody listening to find their way there. Hope FM and CITAM and EAK, KCCB, NCCK have been very instrumental. Those are our key stakeholders. it came together, as a little context, it came together out of very frustrations that we are going through of the Constitution of Kenya. It was the year 2010.
Right.
And you remember, some will be accused of saying no to the Constitution, the church. And even the current president is said, you said no, so you are part of the people who said no. But there's a distinction between why the church and the current president said no to the 2010 Constitution. In it were articles that have today reaped havoc. What we see with the movement of LGBTQ was what was the church was going against. There were also issues of one faith being pit against the other. Why have special courts in favor of others? So those were some of the arguments that were there. There were also other areas that the church felt should be instituted in the Constitution, including protection of the family. So those things are what the church was saying no to. The church did not say no after struggling and suffering through the Munges, Dingi Mwana Nzeki, Okuru, to say no to a constitution that they themselves, as congregants and as church, have fought for. So now, when that period came, KCPF then said we came together to say no to those areas. But now, that is, the constitution has passed. We are now at a point where we decided that we must come together as professionals, because we were lawyers, engineers, personal development people, governance people, civil society, private sector. So coming together as professionals, this is a good thing. It's a godly thing. It's defined. Let's continue with it. Within the setup, we realized that there are people doing excellent things in this country. Even now as we speak, there are people who are doing such wonderful things, but they are never highlighted. They are never seen. Why? Kenya is consumed by politics and negative politics. Yeah? And so when we came up and consulted on that, we realized there are people we can identify doing great things. How will these people be known? How will they be seen? And therefore, KCPF started something called Utumishi Bora Award. Now, these awards are done every year. They are done every year, and they are done with the premise that they are good people in every corner of this country doing something excellent. And it looks at 6 categories. It looks at leadership, it looks at mentorship, it looks at innovation and creativity, it looks also at the area of integrity, and it looks also at the area now we introduced of family and also corporate. Corporate, this is the most recent, of institutions that aspire and do things that promote the family at their place of work. So you could have institutions that have a daycare helping the ladies, a nursing place where they can go with their children. So we say, what are the systems you have put in place that are family friendly? So that's for institutions. Now for the categories, we ask the general population, and this is happening right now, is the nomination to
nominate those who
to nominate
feel
anybody you
those
feel.
Categories, yes.
And including media, I almost forgot, including media. And so it is the public that will say, I have seen Brother Edmund, all this time he's been doing something. And we feel it's a good thing. But if we don't know him, and you know him, why are you not nominating? And it is not only about, say, using media as an example. There could be the guys who are behind the scenes, the producers, the cameramen. We will never know these individuals. Because, even when you present to us, we only see the ones who are
But there's a lot that's happening behind.
But there's a lot happening behind.
In fact, most of the work is behind.
It's behind. And you guys out there know them. So it's simple. It's just to nominate that individual and put their names in that form. There'll be a few questions that you'll be asked. Who is Edmund? You who is nominating. I know Edmund because I was in school with him. I know his work. I know. So you present. How do we get to Edmund? So we need an email address and his contact. From there, then they will be asked to send in their CV in a format that is acceptable to its formula. It's a form that is common to everybody, so that it gets the information it requires and it can be assessed. And then after that, they will conduct interviews, serious interviews. And you have to prove the things that are stated there. And then that jury, because there's a jury, goes through and determines, in this category, we have found so and so as the winner. So from the year 2016, Dr. Gideon Muriuki was the Mtumishi Bora. Mtumishi is the overall, the person who seems to exhibit qualities that's cut across and is able now to be recognized as the Mtumishi Bora Award winner. So 2016, Dr. Gideon Muriuki. 2017 was Justice Richard Mururu. 2018 was Dr. Florence Muindi of LIA. What's that organization? I'm forgetting the name. Then Honorable Dennis Kiogora. This was an MCA who exhibited the qualities that are required for a good leader and a public servant who has exceeded beyond the measure and call of duty. Builds consensus, asks what needs to be done, how do we go about doing this. And then, of course, 2020, this particular one, people know because of his work, it stands out. Professor Kifudha Kibwana of Makueni. You remember everybody would travel to Makueni to study.
To benchmark.
To benchmark.
Right.
And I love that. Why do you spend 978 million, a certain governor somewhere,
and you can
to go and
here.
benchmark in Dubai? What is in Dubai that will help you in your local area while one person is already doing it? So Professor Kifudha Kibwana. Then you remember Professor Raban Ayilu, what he went through because of his integrity.
Yes.
And also our tribalism, another area that I would spend a whole day with you, my brother, because it is wrong. Look at people for what they're able to do. So he won it in 2021. Then Dr. Titus, Bishop Titus Masika, 2022. I would encourage people to visit that man.
Yes, I have.
And you have been there. Then you are one of the few converted. You know, we are looking for our messiahs going out into Egypt, going out into Israel. We have our own right here, our own. And I love what that man has done. And the simplicity in which it's been done, it's out there. Then, of course, we have Dr. David Oginde, who I don't envy at this juncture. That man...
His plate is full.
His plate is full. He gets it from all sides. We also give it to him in love. You know, they say you must criticize in brotherly love. But I don't envy his position. But he was also awarded the Mtumishi Bora of last year because of the things he's been able to do, because of the work that he has done. Now, I have learned that as good as you may be, there are certain places that you may be put in, and they may be very difficult because they are not in tune with the character of the person. And the reason I say I don't envy him is I am sure if it's not for his God and sometimes some Panadols, that is not an easy place to be, because there are things you will see, there are things you will understand, but sometimes they are beyond. And so it is important to know that when also we call you as a Mtumishi Bora, now this is the difficult part for him, is that there are things that we expect him to call out.
Yes.
And he must call them out.
Wow.
He must call them out.
Indeed. Yeah. And I'm about to call you out because it looks like we'll easily have, by public demand, season 2 or part 2, public demand.
Indeed.
Because this whole subject of being and championing the change we need is one that you can't do justice in half an hour, 45 minutes as it is. So parting short, 15 seconds.
Yes.
What's your word of advice for those who are watching, listening to you and saying, then this is my call?
Yes. Leadership is an area that is open to everyone. It starts with self-leadership, And it starts by recognizing that we are all created in God's own image. And because of that, I am calling on every individual. What you demand of the ones that are leading, you be the leader first. Be the example that we want to see.
Be that for yourself.
Be that for yourself. Start wherever you are. Do what you can wherever you are. I have found a secret that the people we admire, including Nelson Mandela himself, started small and started where they were. In fact, that same Nelson Mandela, at one point of his journey, started off with being very aggressive. He was even a boxer and was a bit violent. But along the steps of leadership, he learned and he was converted. And wisdom besets you by also consulting those around you. So be the leader you want others to be by being the leader that they want to see in you. Finally, I would say this. No leader becomes a good leader without consulting God. For all wisdom begins by understanding, knowing, loving, serving God. Anyone I have interviewed, my brother, who I consider to be a leader of significance, will not leave out the Creator. So that would be my parting shot. Finally, to the Gen Zs, you have led us. You have done a good thing. We, my generation, apologize for not leading the way we ought to have led, but give us a second chance. In addition to that, give us also a chance to be able to guide you, because they are good men and good women who are not the ones that you are seeing causing the pain. And they are your mothers and your fathers and your older brothers. And you know what pains they have gone through. If you reflect on it that way, you will discover that even in government, the best government is one that has the elders, has the youth, has the women, has the men, and has the Gen Zs. May God bless you.
Wonderful indeed.
Yeah.
We thank you. We appreciate the privilege of your time. This has been the leader, Gerald. Asante sana.
Thank you very much.
Let's do this same time next week. God bless.